let's get going.
Let's do it.
I've been trying to tap dance, and hopefully Stephen would be able to join us, but let's march on, and I'm sure more people will join us as they can. Gentlemen, we'll start with you, Wayne. Please introduce yourself to our students and a little bit about your background.
Sure. I'm Wayne Carmona. I'm a line producer and a unit production manager, so I belong to both the Directors Guild and the Producers Guild. I actually started my career in television and advertising back in New York. I grew up in Los Angeles, but once I graduated, I went to a community college like yours, and then from there I went to a professional art school, Art Center College of Design, and from there I went to New York to work at an ad agency, and the folks at the agency decided they wanted to open a commercial film company, so I went along and never looked back. All of my art training, I applied to the task of problem solving, because everything that is part and parcel of telling a story is trying to organize it in such a way that it goes together the way it needs to for a particular story. So I worked in New York for several years. For a time, I was the production manager for 20th Century Fox when they would bring movies into New York. And eventually, I moved back to Los Angeles to be close to my family and continue my career both in features and in television. And about 3 years ago, maybe almost 4 years ago, I was introduced to the movie that Carter and I just finished. Carter's production company produced it. And I was introduced to the script and Michael Keaton, and was able to sort of create some of the building blocks that gave the production company the wherewithal to try to get financing and put the pieces together. So we've had quite an adventure over this last few months, and I'm pleased to say that now it's up to Michael Keaton as an editor, a director editor, and as Jessica Hernandez, our editor, to show us what we did.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was asking Jessica at the wrap party if we could get any little Christmas presents, any little scenes, snippets to see. And she said, well, you're going to have to ask Santa Keaton if you want any of that for Christmas. So, well, I'm Carter Stanton. I've been at Brook Street for basically my entire professional career for the last 12 years. I went to film school at the University of Miami in Florida, and majored in production over there, as well as English, because you have to do a double major over there. And started interning in LA the summer before I graduated, and just loved the city out here, and sort of knew that I was just going to come to LA the second I graduated to try to hit the ground running and find something immediately. And the internship was at a post-production house in Santa Monica. And they called me the day I graduated and said, we've got an assistant editor position. It's paid. There's benefits. If you can be here in a week, it's yours. So I canceled all of my summer plans and stuffed my car full of everything I had, and started driving to LA. And on the second day, they called me back and said, we're sorry, the Universal deal isn't what we thought it was going to be. We don't have the position for you. Maybe you should go home for the summer and, come back and intern with us in the fall. And I was just like, screw that. My head and my heart is already in LA. I'm on the road. I might as well keep going. So I just kept going and started interning at a bunch of different places, a foreign sales company, a production company, on a film, as I was waiting tables every night, just doing the hustle. And Brook Street was one of those internships. So all unpaid internships. And Trevor Matthews, our CEO, he's a financier, he's a producer, he's acted, he's directed, he's done a bunch of stuff. And it's really rare to find somebody who is as focused and passionate about film and actually has a good heart and wants to see the company grow and invest in people. So I've stuck around, and KNOX Goes Away, I think, is my 8th film with the company. This film came to us. I read this script. An agent sent it to me after Toronto International Film Festival meeting a few years ago, and at that point there had been various iterations of trying to get the film off of the ground, and we met Wayne around that time, as he had already worked with one of our production partners on different versions of what the movie could look like, and Brook Street had just come off of our film in Morocco, The Forgiven, with Jessica Chastain and Ralph Fiennes. And that was about a $10 million film. And we thought this could fit into kind of the rough budgetary structure that we used on that film. And so the stars kind of aligned. And, Keaton was filming for Batgirl and The Flash and other things, and was continually trying to find a window to direct his second feature. It's been 15 years since he directed his first. And the stars aligned. It's a miracle that any movie ever gets made. All the planets have to align, and luckily he found the time and the space in his schedule for us to make this movie in earnest this year. So it's been a process. We can get into it. I know your questions ask a lot of different things about when it started and development, et cetera. So I'll kind of let us get to those details when we get there. But so that's how I came to this movie.
Well, yeah, we'll dovetail right into kind of the first set of questions here. It's like, when did the project really start? And when did it get greenlit?
The project really started when Greg Poirier wrote a killer script. He wrote this movie on spec years ago. And his manager, Michael Sugar, one of our producing partners, had worked with Michael on a few other movies, on Worth, on Spotlight, and they're the connective tissue there to get Michael to the screenplay. But the project did not get green lit in essence until this year, until we got the California tax credit, which kind of shored up our finance plan. And we started, official prep in August, Wayne, mid-August. So I guess you could call that the green light. The green light was really August.
And you started principal photography when?
October 24th.
So it was how many weeks now? Let's see.
Yeah, we had between various parties, not everybody started mid-August. You sort of trickle in your HODs. So we had between an 8 and 10 week prep period. And
HOD is
head of department.
Okay. Yeah. Acronyms are crazy in our business, and who department keys are and HODs and all this. We want to make sure that you guys sitting at home understand some of the vernacular that comes out. Break down your roles and responsibilities. Wayne, what were your roles and responsibilities during principal photography?
Well, I would say, taking a half a step back, I perceive myself as, in layman's terms, the general contractor. In other words, the script is the architectural plan, and the production company and the director are the creative contributors, and I'm the facilitator. So it's my responsibility to manage the budget, oversee the budget, manage the what you might call the subcontractors, all of the different departments, whether it be camera or props or wardrobe or any of those, and then moderate and try to keep everything moving, because you have a schedule. And in our case, it expanded ever so slightly, but it ended up being a 26-day schedule to work within the budget constraints or privileges that we had. And so that's generally my function, and to keep people, just to make sure that the crew members are fulfilled in terms of getting paid, getting fed, and getting the work done. Not necessarily in that order.
They better be fed, if nothing else.
Exactly. I think we're one of the only, except for some of the maybe Silicon Valley entities, we're one of the only industries that provides breakfast, lunch, and sometimes dinner and snacks in between. Rarely will you go to a job where there are scheduled meal breaks and the meal is provided. Usually you show up with a lunchbox. But in our industry, we find it a little more conducive to efficiency if we keep people motivated with dangling that carrot of money and that other carrot that they can eat along the way.
And boy, has craft service changed over the years, hasn't it?
Yes, it actually, the story that I was told was that years ago, there was a producer who had a buddy who was a kind of a punch drunk fighter. And so he wanted to take care of him. And he said, why don't you go get a pot of coffee and a box of donuts and put out a cup, and people will, put a quarter in or a nickel or whatever it was at the time. And that's how you make some money. Now we show up with a tractor trailer with a complete kitchen inside and provide more food than I'm still astounded that people at 9 o'clock at night are eating another meal, but we provide it and they eat it. So
yeah, you don't lose weight on a film set. You certainly gain it. I ate like 4 meals a day for like the last 6 weeks. It's absurd, but there's a lot of, it's stressful. You're working long hours. Your brain and your body is stimulated in all these different ways, trying to get all the work done and problem solve. And sometimes, a donut or a Belvita cracker or a snack meal or whatever it is just like a little break from the insane mental gymnastics that you're doing for 14 hours or whatever it ends up being for that day.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I remember those 16 to 18 hour days way back when.
Thankfully we didn't have any of those, but
when I first started out, it was, those, and it was like, oh gosh.
not unusual. Exactly.
Yeah. With a 5-hour turnaround.
That's crazy.
So yeah, I know. That's back when dinosaurs ruled the world and stuff like that. So, Carter, what were your roles and responsibilities during principal? And hi, Steve. Hey, you got back up.
Yeah, you'll notice I just went grainy again. We're having some power issues out here in Calabasas. So if you lose me, I'll be back as quick as I can. But I'm here. So
nice. You look crystal clear to me. So that's great.
You're good.
So, I'm one of the executive producers on the project. I've got the two principals at Brook Street were the producing partners for this film, the producers from capital P producers, they call them, from Brook Street. And so, basically the difference between an executive producer and a producer within a company has a lot to do with just seniority, and the decision makers, right? So, I love this company because we all kind of we work as a three-headed monster, and Alexa, who's our fourth team member, is there to just facilitate and make everything happen. She's awesome. And so when it comes to making the final decision on certain things, I have to take that to Nick or Trevor. But when it comes to, I was there as liaising with Wayne, managing the budget. I'm sort of the eyes and ears for the production company into the budget. So Nick and Trevor would come to me when they wanted to know certain things, what's in for this, how are we doing on that, et cetera. How can we fit this in? What do we need to lose? So there's that part of it. And then it's really kind of oversight and help and assistance with the production team, the Wayne and his team in the office, when it comes to any of the things that pop up on a daily basis. So it's, say it's insurance claims because a truck scraped against another truck, or it's, talking about locations that we need or things that we don't need. It's really just kind of soup to nuts, all the decisions that are kind of happening in real time. I'm there to be eyes and ears for the producers when they're doing something else, right? When they're talking to the director or they're talking to one of the actors or something. So, and
Carter, can I follow up on that? Sorry, go ahead. I thought you were
No, go ahead.
So Brook Street, right? Is that the name of it?
Yep.
Is Brook Street, because we talk a lot, or at times anyway, about what is a producer, and it's like it can be somebody's manager, it can be even an associate producer, someone's assistant sometimes, right? But when we get into the capital P producer or executive producer, it changes a bit. But there's also a difference in types of production companies. So for your role, where you're full-time at the company, right? Is Brook Street mostly a funding source for films that then you guys go out and try and find distribution or whatever it might be? Or say a creative company that's looking to set it up elsewhere? And for your job as an executive, are you more a development executive, a production executive, a sales executive? What would that be?
Sure. Yeah. So Brook Street Pictures is, we've got the privilege of having a financing source. So not only do we produce films, but we also finance films. So we were the lead financier on this film as well. And so because I'm one of the executives here and we're a financing company, what I do when we're not in production is we are evaluating and chasing that. We're either evaluating incoming opportunities from other producers that do not have financing. So projects scripts, projects, packages, a director and this actor, or just the director. In the case of KNOX Goes Away, this was Michael Keaton as a director and an actor. He was the part of the package when I received the script from the agency, from Verve. And so then it becomes about assessing the value of that, to understand how much we would feel comfortable investing in that film, right? So that's where Wayne was incredibly helpful, because he was there managing the budget and helping us understand what it would cost. And then Brook Street, we then reached out to, we went out to foreign sales companies to do foreign sales based on this script and Michael Keaton as a director and actor, to help us further mitigate the budget and the cost for this company. I was also then spearheading the applications for the various tax incentives. So we made our application to the California tax credit. We were then waitlisted, and it was shared with us that it's very hard to get off the wait list, and you don't really want to count on it. Yeah. So we then steered the ship over to New Mexico, and I started that process over there. And then we magically got off the wait list, and then we moved everything back to LA. So,
and when it comes to evaluating product, you are looking for packaged screenplays, not necessarily developing them from scratch.
It's actually both. We do a little bit of everything. So we we don't do a lot of book adaptations. It's a long road,
The
and
only company in town not looking for IP. I love that.
yeah, right. So we like to sort of, we don't really pay for that much development. When Brook Street comes in and pays for development, it's usually to get something from the draft it's currently in to the green light draft. It's us saying, here's how we perceive this. We think this is basically there, but in order for it to fit within our financing structure or the production, we need to do, a couple tweaks here and there. So that's really the most of the development that we do. But we do have a slate of, 10, 20 other scripts, varying times that have come in that we have read and liked and are developing with a filmmaker, or, working on with a director, or, it's an actor's passion project, things like that. So we do a little bit of both, but primarily we are assessing scripts that are have some attachment to them that
And are close to ready to go.
Is providing for us. Yeah, exactly. That are closer, than to ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. But as far as my role on the film, I mean, when you get into production, it's about sort of managing the production. But, a huge part of my role as a part of this company is in the prep period, is in pre-production, because that's when the financial closing happens. That's when you have to bring, we brought on Film Nation to do foreign sales at Cannes last year. This year they sold to over 20 international distributors. So then you've got a senior lender who was lending against those pre-sales and was lending against the tax credit, which we also, applied for and got. So, and then you've got the equity investment that that Brook Street made. And then we have investment partners that we bring into films, depending on the taste and whatever of our finance partner. So I was wrangling all of those folks and on calls for, 6 to 8 weeks prior, multiple times a week, aligning all. It's like the least fun part of producing. It's
the juggling, right?
It's the finance plan, and it's all the NOAs, and it's paperwork and all of that stuff to make sure
we have cash flow.
Yeah, exactly. And managing the cash flow. And then of course we had a bond company on this as well. So they are essentially there to ensure that if in the absolute worst case you have to abandon the film, then you can get your investment back. They're a huge insurance policy for the film. But they also, of course, invites a ton of scrutiny on your plan and your production, because they're essentially guaranteeing that the movie will be finished on budget, on schedule. So that adds its own layers of oversight and management and scrutiny to the prep period, which, adds work, but also adds comfort. So that was my primary role in those 6 to 8 weeks before we started, was managing all of that, while the other producers at the company were diving more into the other prep elements of the locations and the design and all of that stuff for the film.
How will, and this goes to both you and Wayne, how will your roles change now that you're in post? What would our students, if they followed that path, what would they expect to be doing now?
You want to go first, Wayne?
Sure. From my standpoint, using again the reference of the general contractor, I'm finishing up my responsibilities, making sure that all of the subcontractors get paid, and the crew members get paid, and we make sure that all of the legal obligations are dealt with, and I'll pass that on to Brook Street, so that historically they can, if there's ever a reference to anything, they have all of the elements, because the California Film Commission wants to make sure that since they are a participant, that we've done everything properly. So all of the forms are completed correctly, and then I step away from the project, where Carter continues on overseeing, along with his creative partners, all of the finishing, right up until previews and showing it at festivals.
And for someone in your position, so line producer, UPM type position, what would be typical for wrap as far as weeks? Obviously depends on the project, but what would typically
every project is obviously driven by its budget. So for this particular project, my obligation on paper is 3 weeks, but Carter shouldn't hear this, but I'm expecting phone calls 6 months from now saying, don't you remember on the third day when somebody stubbed their toe? Do you remember what shirt they were wearing? That's not untypical.
Yeah. And if you're in the actual UPM position and through the guild, is there a number that the guild requires, a number of weeks or time that someone in a UPM position would be held on through wrap?
It's typically about 2 weeks, that which is not, for a project of this size, isn't completely realistic, because there are vendors that tend to not act as responsibly as they should with their bills, invoices, etc. And so you do what you have to do, and my office will turn everything over to the Brook Street office, and then we'll liaison together to make sure that all of the information is properly categorized.
Okay. And Carter, especially where this film will obviously, I would think, become part of Brook Street's library, so that impacts you during post. But do you have creative positions, or what does post look like for you?
Yeah, sure. Post right now, is basically focused on wrap. We're focused on getting everything sort of buttoned up, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, getting all the contracts completed, et cetera. And Wayne is quarterbacking most of that. For me, Brook Street will be delivering this movie to our foreign sales partner, Film Nation, and delivering it ultimately to a US distributor. So we have a delivery schedule from Film Nation, which is a list of every single thing that we are obligated to deliver to them by a certain date. So from 10 weeks after we wrap the film, we've got paper delivery. Some people call it legal, advertising, and publicity delivery, which is a bunch of contracts, crew lists, everybody that worked on the movie, all your insurance policies. It's all the things that you said you were going to do. You got to prove that you did them and have all of your paperwork in order. And so today, Alexa and I, my colleague, are going through the delivery schedule for Film Nation, breaking down the list, assigning responsibilities, seeing what we already have, and making sure that anything that's on there that we need from production, we can get before the holiday break starts. Essentially through Wayne's, on paper wrap period, we need to make sure we can get everything that we're going to need to deliver on. Because like you said, if you're calling people in a few months saying, oh crap, we didn't have this thing, do you remember this, do you remember that, it's just going to be a headache for us later. So delivery becomes my first priority right now, because our editor is working on her editor's cut. She'll have that done for her by the end of next week. So she's been cutting throughout production, and she'll have her editor's cut completed at the end of next week. And then Michael starts his director's cut, and per the DGA, he gets a minimum of 10 weeks for that. So while he's focused on his cut, we are going to be focused on, getting all the paperwork in order and everything for delivery. Because when he's done, that's really when more of the creative part of this, which is watching the cut, giving notes, et cetera, and putting the finishing touches on, will begin after his 10-week director's cut.
And there is no US distributor yet, so
Correct.
that will impact your job as well.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So we'll be delivering to our foreign partners in May. And then at the end of May, June, and then we will immediately, if we can make it to Cannes, that would be the dream if we could premiere the movie at Cannes. Obviously, you have to get in, so the movie has to be in decent enough shape to share it. And you never want to rush. You never want to rush a film to try to get into a festival. You want to make sure the film's great. You want to make sure it's polished and it's artistically satisfactory to Keaton, of course, first and foremost, and the producers. So if we can premiere at Cannes, then we would also use that as a sales opportunity, and all the buyers would be there for that. And if the film's not ready for Cannes because it just feels like it's too rushed, with the cast that we have and the producing partners and our sales agent partners, post-pandemic, you can sell a movie pretty much anywhere. People have gotten into the habit of selling a movie out of market, and we would go ahead and do a buyer screening and sell this out of market if we don't make it to Cannes.
When does marketing get their claws on it?
Marketing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for the international distributors, when we're delivering to them, we'll be delivering what's called an EPK, electronic press kit. Essentially, it's a bunch of stills that were filmed on the project. We had interviews with cast members and producers that'll be provided to them that they can cut together for promotional material. So the marketing will the marketing machine will start for the international distributors when they know their release date, and same for the domestic distributor. So that's a while off now, because they'll do that when they know the film's being released, like their date. Yeah.
If we go back to the beginning of your careers for both of you, is the position you're in now, is that what you targeted when you started? And if not, what was your path, so to speak, that led you to where you are now?
Go ahead, Wayne, I'll let you start on this one again.
Okay. As I mentioned at the beginning, I actually started by graduating a professional art school, thinking that I would be a graphic designer or an illustrator. And when I transitioned to the little commercial production company, I had no idea that I was associating myself with people who had won many awards. And so very early on in my career, I was exposed to so many different responsibilities, and I was so naive recently out of college that I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to do something. And so eventually I just evolved into that person who accepted the responsibility for getting things done. At one point in my career, I think 30% of the television commercials I was responsible for producing. Constantly, I used to joke that I was like Mr. Phelps in Mission Impossible, because our company was so busy that I would receive a FedEx envelope with a script, a plane ticket, some cash, and meeting notes, get on a plane and fly to the next place, meet some people, execute, get another envelope, get on a plane, fly someplace else. So I honestly had no life plan, as it were, or aspirational vision to a particular title. I simply kept stumbling my way into one series of events after another, and fortunately there were enough gracious people who allowed me to keep managing. Just as a piece of irony that has nothing to do with anything other than my journey is, one day I realized that my grandfather had been a manager at an aluminum factory in Chicago, managing lots of people. My father, who was a landscape architect, worked for a landscape contracting company where he managed huge numbers of people, and in fact was responsible for the installation at Dodger Stadium. And so one day I realized that, oh, wait a minute, I'm doing the same thing as my grandfather and my father did, just in a different industry. I manage lots of people. I refer to myself as a crisis manager because in what we do, there's always something that's not going right, because it's like planning a party every day. You hope that everyone is entertained, but you never know if somebody's going to crash the party.
Hey, Carter, is it the same with you? Was this the part of your career trajectory, and this is what you're thinking you're going to do, or were you headed off someplace else?
Yeah, not originally exactly. I mean, I went to film school with the thought of being a writer director, with writing and directing. And so I wrote, directed, edited, and produced, 5 shorts, 13 comedy sketches. I was producing student TV shows. I was a host of a movie review show. I was just kind of doing everything, trying everything. And it's a little different. It was a little different in film school. You're sort of, nobody cares about your project more than you do, right? So you end up wearing so many different hats that I think, I enjoyed the directing part of it, but I was actually doing a lot of producing, which I didn't quite realize at the time, until I came out to Hollywood and was, interning and being around other producers and directors. I still write on my own, and it's just a fun thing for me to do. So I envision at some point, perhaps directing something that I've written, but I came to a production company who was financing and producing horror films at the time. I told a little story about not having the post-production job. And at first I was just trying to find any opportunity to get my foot in somewhere, because that's what I had been told, was just find a reason to stay in LA, right? You need some kind of income and something to do and some door in. So I thought post-production was going to be it. And I was open to that because I also enjoyed editing. But I'd always thought I'd be a writer or director. But as I started to work at this company more and see the opportunity to learn about how a film gets going, how it starts, how it's built, how it's produced, how it finishes, going soup to nuts from development all the way through to sales. I like long projects. I like being involved and watching things evolve and being there to help it grow and change and et cetera. And producing, there's a reason the producer, receives the Best Picture award, because, a director's on a movie for a year or two, maybe, an actor's on it for a few weeks, or months, maybe. But the producer, we have a movie that we made in Morocco in 2020 that, we're about to get our first cost report on from our distributor, right? So it's like, you're on it for years and years. And I just find that to be very stimulating, because your job changes as the cycle of production changes, in packaging and trying to find the financing and the development of it early on. The job then evolves in pre-production, it then evolves in production, it then evolves in post. So I like it keeps you on your toes, because you're always sort of doing something different. So no, I didn't think I'd be a producer, but I find it very fulfilling. So.
And can we ask you where you went to film school?
University of Miami.
Okay.
In Florida. So they have a film department that requires you to have a second major. So I actually enjoyed that, because I sort of thought it gives you twice as much for, bang for your buck. My parents also wanted me to have a backup. So they like that part of it too.
So when you were going to college, did that really prepare you for the position that you're in now?
I mean,
Or was
yes
it
and
kind
no. Yeah, yes and no. I think, the greatest part of the Miami film program was that half of the kids that were in it were the children of snowbirds that had apartments in Miami, but really lived in the Northeast. And they just thought, oh, I think Miami's fun and film sounds easy, so I'll just do that. So there was a group of what we called in film school the film majors, because they were majoring in film. And then we had the film makers, or the people that were actually there and wanted to be there because they really wanted to be a part of movies. And so when half of your department, half of the students don't really care, that means you've got more access to the equipment, you've got more access to actually go make things. So the best part of film school for me was all the experience I got wrangling people to make a short film or produce a TV show or those things. There was no course on tax credits or building a finance plan or, how do you build a budget? Like those things weren't at that film school. So I sort of learned by doing in LA, and you really learn how to handle and wrangle people when you're doing it on student films, because it's a little more pure. There's not really money involved, right? People aren't getting paid for their positions. You really have to convince people to come out and be part of your vision. Yes and no.
How about you, Wayne? I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
I was
Steve.
going to say the same thing. Wayne, are there things you use from school that kind of surprise you? And is there something that you wish you would have learned, even though it was, I guess, graphic design, right?
Well, I've been pondering how to answer the question in a meaningful way. One of the most exciting things about my beginning experience at Art Center was one of my first classes, which was a problem-solving class. And the first problem was, how would you rob a bank? And so it was, I found that thrilling, not from the exciting, because of the challenge of, oh, that's really a good question. How would you do that? And so I find that my experiences in both the community college and at the professional school are all of the things that I use now, because they basically challenge you to figure out how you solve a problem. One of the things that I get very frustrated about with some of my team members is that they, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, but they're lazy thinkers, in that, well, that's what I did yesterday, that's what I'm going to do today, and that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. And one of the most exciting things for me, one of my takeaways is, I've never done the same thing 2 days in a row. We use the same stuff all the time. We use some sort of image capture device. We have actors and actresses. We have a place to film. We have to organize how it goes together. But when you put anywhere from 150 to 600 people together to try to imagine somebody's vision, you have to be flexible, and you have to be up for the challenge. So I think that what I learned during my education period was that how to be curious, which I get a really big kick out of, as the expression that many of you have heard and probably used before. I'm a master of nothing, but I know a lot about a lot of little things. And so it's very important for you if you, no matter what level of filmmaker you want to be, if you want to be a technician or if you want to be a creator or on the creative side, I think curiosity is the one thing that you should stimulate more than anything else. At least that's what works for me. Because I'm constantly asked, do you know about, and if I don't, I want to find out why I don't.
Yeah, there's a generational thing, I think, for sure, with the lack of critical thinking skills, or that they're pushed and promoted, where the bank robbery thing would really make you use those skills, right? As opposed to teaching to the test. And we talk a lot about that. And it would be generational, but those critical thinking skills really go a long way when you've got problems to solve every day that aren't the same.
Yeah, you're always filming in a different location and a different set of circumstances with different people. So you may, even if you filmed the same script in different places, you would have to solve completely different problems, right? So that's certainly part of the exciting part of making a movie.
We might have to figure out our own version of the bank robbery thing to promote those skills. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
We might get in trouble for it, right? Teaching our kids to rob a bank, but we won't take it.
Well, it's not robbing a bank. We'll figure something out. There's
You're
another
not
vehicle
teaching them
that
how to rob a bank. They're teaching you how to rob a bank.
Well, that's true.
How do you avoid TikTok for 24 hours?
Yeah.
All right. And Wayne, is there anything that you wish that you would have learned? Because the critical thinking goes so far. It really it can lead you anywhere career-wise. But is there anything you wish you would have gotten in college?
At the time, I thought I was at the top of my game, because that particular school actually turns out 50% of the auto designers, 30 to 40% of the product designers in this country, and a great number now of photographers and filmmakers. So I would say that there wasn't anything that I could point to say that I didn't learn, but what it did underscore was how significant curiosity could satisfy your goals. When I went to New York and we began filming, I was again beating this word curiosity to death. I made a point of going to the camera house to learn how to use the camera from the standpoint of how it goes together, what the lenses do, and how to service it. And I did the same thing with torturing our favorite sound mixer as well, to understand what he was doing. Not because I wanted to be a DP or a sound mixer, I just wanted to understand what they were doing. And I didn't, I actually created, there was no film course at Art Center at the time. I think, initiated the idea for the first film course because I was fortunate enough to be awarded a scholarship at the school. And so one of my assignments as a scholarship student was to create the catalog. And I decided to make the first catalog a film. And so somewhere in the vault at Art Center, there is a film catalog rather than a printed booklet. But I would say that what I didn't learn, I was able to learn in the field. And I think jumping ahead to the end of some of your questions, just for a moment, I think for all of the folks that are joining us on this Zoom and have the patience to listen to us, all I can do is encourage you to follow your interests. And I think Carter can attest to this as well. I don't think of this as a job. If it were a job, I don't think I could do it, because there's so much that stimulates me in terms of the day in and day out problem solving, that it really gets me excited to keep doing what I do.
Moving on then, what are the most important soft skills?
Oops. I think we lost him.
Yeah, he's frozen.
So,
for me too.
so much for the power. So what are the most important soft skills?
Sorry.
It's okay. I'm taking it. What are the most important soft skills that you use on a daily basis in your interaction with people? This is we're such a close-knit family, if you will. And how you've developed those soft skills over the years.
Carter, you want to start, or you?
Yeah, I thought I would. Carter, you jump in.
Yeah, sure. I mean, just so I'm and when you're talking about soft skills, you're talking about things that are not like, I know how to turn set up a light, or put the camera on, or how to operate I mean,
it's the human interaction and how we all get together and how we really work as a family. Because we live with one another for months.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, it's more about listening to people. I think producing a movie is really managing egos for the most part. You've got a lot of people that all want and need to make sure that they're heard, or this or that. And at the end of the day, you're really trying to make the same movie. So you're trying to get all those people on the same page. And so I always find, I'm not a yeller. I don't like to, I like to listen to people. I like to encourage people. I like people to feel supported and heard, and valued. And so it's having a sort of rah, like excited, positive attitude, and listening to people, to me, has been the thing that's always made it more fun, because it's a really hard job anyway. Mm-hmm. It's a really hard thing to do. But the soft skills to me is like, if people don't like you, or people don't want to be around you, it's going to be a lot harder to ask them to do something that they haven't done before, or push them to do something a little bit differently. And so to me, it's really about learning about the person, understanding them, understanding what their desires are for the project or their role, and just demonstrating to them that you're there to fight for them, but also to push back and to put in perspective, to help everybody work better together. So to me, it's really just about getting to know people and listening to them.
How about you, Wayne?
Well, I would say broadly, that's a brilliant response, because this is I refer to it as a team sport, where we're the team captains, in that we have to get everybody to coalesce to understand the vision of the director and help help execute. And again, echoing what Carter has said, and by the way, we didn't pre-rehearse this, it's so important to listen to people, because sometimes their agenda is different than what the overall agenda has to be. And it's very important to be able to be perceptive enough to hear what they're saying, as you're all racing down the hill as fast as you can to get out of the way of a rolling boulder, or whatever might be coming at you that you didn't realize, like time. You know, we haven't talked about the details, but I refer to it as time is our enemy. As you were referring to the other day, 14 to 16 hours, you have a defined period of time within which to accomplish everything that you have to accomplish. And everybody has to align themselves to that set of tasks, and hopefully with the spirit of telling the story that has to be told. What makes it difficult from time to time is that the story is told from the standpoint of the logic of you're in one place for 6 days, for example, but that's over an entire span of a movie. So you've got to get people to understand that. And by and large, everyone is there to make some money, develop relationships, and tell a good story. So it's our job as the captains to hear what the problems are and point people in the direction of what the solutions are.
I got to say, just watching the way you two interact is a great example of some of those soft skills of teamwork and being collegial, all that stuff. If you were to look at as a hiring manager, and for people who are coming out of school, what are the soft skills you guys look for? Because it would probably not be the same that we're seeing right now, but what are the types of soft skills that you're looking for? I do look for.
Yeah, I think Wayne hit it on a little bit earlier, but it's really a curiosity. It's really a kind of a willingness to attack any problem from various angles, and an ability to learn to do that, because it's hard to define everything that you need in somebody, because like we've been saying, the challenges are different all of the time. So it's somebody's sort of their agility in being able to think about things from multiple different angles. You know, it's like somebody that can go off and say, here's the problem, here's what I'm being asked to do, let me go explore it from a couple different avenues, see what solutions I can find, and come back, right? Like the saying is, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. Like that because time is your enemy, it's invaluable when somebody can take something on and say, okay, I understand it to some degree. What I don't understand, I'll try to learn through the problem solving I'm going to go try to do. And then I'll come back to you with a few different places, a few different solutions. So it's really, it's people skills, and it's creativity. You know, if you can go talk to anybody, if you can go get to know somebody, like Wayne said, so you can listen, you can really hear people, you can kind of hear between what they're saying. People just have to want to be around you. That's kind of the basic thing, you know. People they have to want to be around you. So it's demeanor, it's excitement, it's attitude. All of those things are the things that you can't really teach, that I really look for.
Yeah, I think I have evolved over time 2 questions that I ask everybody that I interview. And the first is, can you describe your strengths? And the second is, can you describe your weaknesses? So it's very important from my standpoint to find people that are eager to, quite frankly, have my job. Because if they want my job, then I know that will stimulate their interest in how to get there. And I think that would be a big motivator. That, you know, starting out, one of the things I wanted to bring to the fore also is your responsibilities in orienting the students to and exposing them to this industry. I think is a tremendous challenge, but at the same time, hopefully you present a certain degree of realism, because rarely will anybody step out of their college experience and be handed a job as a director or a writer or as a camera person. It can happen. It's sort of like winning the lottery. Not likely to happen, but so entry-level positions can be very, as Carter was mentioning, unsatisfying. Some of the production assistants that worked on this picture, I think, are living 3 and 4 to household, because they're not generating enough money to live on their own. But what they're doing is they're developing relationships with each of the different departments. They're determining if they want to go in one direction or another, whether it be a technician or a director or a writer. So there's a degree of curiosity, a degree of patience, and a degree of interest in trying to get to whatever they perceive as the next level, which could constantly change. On a film set or a television set, for example, there might be an opportunity for somebody to work in the writer's room. There might be an opportunity for somebody to work with a director who wants to take them under their wing and have them share their experiences. So it's not fast, as in 6 months you might be doing the same thing or less, but for those people who have the tenacity and curiosity to stick it out, I think the industry holds a lot of rewards, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
And Carter, hard skills for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think learning, it's interesting. The hard skills question, it's harder to really look at. I mean, in the position that I'm in at a company that finances as well, it kind of goes along with the things I wish I was taught in school, which is, being able to read a finance plan or a foreign sales estimate sheet, or, having a familiarity with CAS contracts, or all these elements of putting something together that you really have to learn on the job. So I don't know, the hard skills, there are less of them that are really necessary. I think, in terms of hiring somebody at a production company, aside from what your software you can use and things like that. It's really just about, do you have a brain for problem solving, and are you eager and willing to do it from all angles?
Do presentation skills come into it for you? I have to remind, even in writing classes, sometimes students that when you turn something in, it shouldn't look like a text between two friends with 0 punctuation or capitals, or so the ability to put together a cohesive, readable email that looks professional, things like that. There's some subjectivity in there, so yes, some soft skill, but definitely a hard skill.
For sure. No, that's very valid. It's writing is an important part of this, whether it's writing an email or writing coverage on a screenplay, or helping put together a lookbook for a project we're going to go out with, right? Efficiently being able to put, condense information into one sheets or a presentation. All of those things are very helpful. So yeah, it's funny. Like when I first started here, I was also an English major. So it was very much about every email having complete sentences and periods and the right formatting and all of it. And then you start interacting with agents who will send you a 3-word email and, filled with misspellings or what have. It's just like, I'm not saying to stoop to their level, but there is a positive side of being efficient as well. So when you're putting together something that you're going to send out to potential investors or director or actors, obviously you need it to present professionally and cleanly. And then all the inter emails, all the inter stuff like that, it kind of falls by the wayside a little bit.
And by lookbook, you're talking like pitch deck and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is a term we use quite a bit.
Yeah.
How technically,
think-
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna torture you with another opinion. Because of my background in advertising, where communication is really essential, there is something that I'd like to share, which is what is referred to as the elevator pitch. And that is something that in your communication, it's very important to write out exactly what you're trying to accomplish, but you should also flip it to how will the audience, the person or people that you're submitting this to, how are they going to understand what you're saying? And if you can synthesize it down into something that is very essential and succinct, you're going to probably rise up a level or two in the communication world, because people are inundated with many, if not hundreds, and maybe thousands of emails or other communication. And so if you can be incredibly succinct, there's a good chance that you will get the attention that others might not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very helpful in that regard, because a screenplay is 100 pages sometimes, or a concept or an idea can, you could spend hours talking about something, but when you're trying to get everybody on the same page, or you're trying to convey it, the clarity of it is very important.
Absolutely. How technically savvy today does a producer need to be? Carter?
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it really depends on the software. I guess
Because we're now so dependent on technology for everything in our quote unquote digital age. And it's like when I started out with the Bullock's 16mm camera, and now we're shooting on, Aries, the world has changed, and it's a different place. And
yeah, I mean, I couldn't set up the camera and be a camera operator, but understanding, the different parts of it, what's the head that we used consistently, Wayne, for the instead of a steady.
The Worrell head or the Sackler head.
oh yeah.
Yeah, like understanding what things are helps you with, servicing your crew. So it's good to be technologically savvy in terms of like understanding where we are with cameras or budgeting software, stuff like that, that helps you in your particular role. But I mean, I'm not coding anything, I'm not creating anything. Movies are made on computers now, right? So you have to be able to email and use a phone. You have to be able to
Well, also understanding, the creative possibilities with some of the new software that's out there, and the technologies like volumes and things like that. It seems that we're every day there's some new gizmo that we have
Mhm.
that can help us do things. So
Absolutely. I mean, we shot using an LED tunnel, and this was the first time I'd ever used that before. So I wasn't very savvy at all in that. I'm still learning a lot about it, but now having some understanding of what it entails and the different pieces, the labor, the pieces, how long you need to rent, all those details of what it took to make it happen. You only just benefits you when you move forward and inevitably need to solve a similar problem on another movie.
Have things gotten more complex? I mean, we keep racing toward, all these deliverables and things that we have to, schedule and get out to everybody now, both theatrically and streaming and all that. How from your perspective, how do you wrangle all of that? Our deliverables are nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, you still need to make a good movie, right? So all of those things change. And it just means there's more paperwork. It just means there's a little more deliverables. But it's still at the end of the day, you're just trying to make you're trying to make a good product. And so the different distribution windows, when you're assessing the viability of a project and you want to understand who you're making the movie for, what's the demographic for the film, that's kind of the same calculation. You're just getting to those people in a different way now.
Let's talk about pain points for a second. What's the majority of pain points in development? Wayne?
I would say that the process is definitely one that is somewhat painful because you're trying to identify some IP. You then have to get people to embrace it in such a way that they're willing to help you, whether it be from a talent standpoint or from a financial standpoint. And it is, I think, our experience, and Carter, correct me if you disagree, but I think our experience with KNOX Goes Away, a wonderful script, cleverly written, was like birthing a child. It was every step of the way was 2 steps forward and 3 steps back until we got to the point where it was, all right, we're filming on the 24th.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're filming something on the 24th.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think in development, the pain points are always, I think there's a term of development hell, right? Where things take forever to get out and get the green light. But that's primarily because, you think you've got the best version of something, and then you take it out to market and you try to get an actor or director or somebody, and you either get who you wanted or you don't. And after you get a certain amount of no's, you go, okay, maybe there is a different way to do this. And then you reconceive something or change something, or you're getting feedback. So from that standpoint, much earlier in the process, it's incredibly frustrating for a lot of writers, directors, and producers. There's a lot of companies that don't fund development for this very reason, because it's the riskiest money. When a production is sort of barreling towards the start, like in terms of KNOX Goes Away, the development pain points become more about, okay, as we're actualizing what things cost and we're actualizing locations where things are taking place, it's no longer only in the imagination of the writer. It's now starting to materialize in your production plan. The script inevitably needs to fit that and needs to be altered for that, because every department uses the script as their guide. So if you go to a location and there isn't a fence where a guy is supposed to hop over a fence, well, you either need to build a fence or you need to write the fence out of the scene. right? So, and if the director says, I don't want a fence, it's fine. I'm just going to walk through the field, but you then don't change that in the screenplay. There's so many people and departments that your art department or your construction department is building up a plan for what it's going to cost to go build that fence. So the pain points really come about what's the vision of the director, what can you afford, and what is available to you in your location. So we went through, I think, was it 5 colors, Wayne, on this script? So from the draft that we got the green light to the production draft, we went through 5 different iterations, shaping scenes, eliminating some scenes, rewriting some to combine scenes, combining certain characters, things like that, because eventually you go to your director, well, if you want an LED tunnel, we need less cast members, or if you want this many extras here, you need a smaller location here that we don't have to fill with so many people. And so as those things evolve, you rewrite them.
And it goes all the way through pre-production, right?
Yeah, we got our final, production draft, I think the day before we started filming.
And everybody looks at it in the morning and goes, surprise. So, yep.
Yeah.
How about the production? How about the pain points in production and post? Seeing that you've gone through that, and what were some of the pain points that you have, or in general, not specific to this project, but in general?
That's a really tough one to answer.
Well, it's as I referenced before, time is your enemy. So you have several obligations. One of them is to accomplish a certain amount of work as defined by the assistant director in a particular day. You have to avoid additional expenses such as a pre-call, which is outside of your typical day's work schedule. The pre-call impacts when your lunch break is, because you're obligated to break within a 6-hour period. Otherwise, you owe the crew members a penalty for missing their actually not only union but California mandated 6-hour meal break. And then there might be any number of issues along the way. A tailgate on a truck might have stopped working. In our, was it our first day? The generator unhooked from the truck that was pulling it, and so we had to scramble to get another generator to replace that one so that we could get set up for our first shot. So there are
Day one.
Exactly. So I think we drove past it and somebody said, I don't even know if it was you, Carter, said, is that our truck?
Yeah, that was me. I was like, that's not one of ours, is it? We're like, yeah, probably is.
It's like, great.
Yeah.
But we managed to get past that. So the pain points are trying to align all of the elements. In our case, we had a crew of actually anywhere from 150 to 350 people, some of them working behind the scenes, some of them being with us on production at the same time, all of them having to run and get or service in a timely fashion. So it's a matter of trying to juggle many elements all at the same time and make it look like, well, this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. I mean, and you get a lot of your pain points in the first couple of days because you have all your best laid plans, and then you get into your first day and your cinematographer says to you, your DP says, look, my camera crew, like I need that extra guy. We're just not moving at the speed we need to be moving at. Or, the first day we shot with 2 cameras, it took 3 hours to do the upload for the camera cards. And so we had to rent some more camera cards so we could be doing these uploads throughout the day, as opposed to waiting toward the end of the day, which then means you can avoid your overtime and your penalties. So, you have one person in a department that's not playing nicely with others or doesn't quite get the message, and you need to replace them. And so inevitably the first couple of days, you discover a few pain points right away that you have to bob and weave immediately so you can, be proactive about the problem solving and stay on.
Are you shooting mostly 2 cameras now because of digital? It makes it so much easier.
We carried 2 cameras the entire time. But I think we ended up shooting about half of our days with 2 cameras. Because sometimes, some of the sets you're just like, we can't fit 2 cameras in there, or,
Well, the eye line is wrong, so it's not gonna be of any benefit.
Yep.
So we have just a few more minutes left, and I want to make sure that the students that are here get a chance to ask a few questions.
Oh, wait a minute, no questions. No, I'm just.
No questions? Oh, wait.
Just kidding.
I didn't have that.
Mhm.
Sorry. Do any of you, we're throwing it open. Jeremiah.
Yes, sir. I have a question for Carter.
Mhm.
I'm looking at your LinkedIn page right now, and it says you worked as an executive assistant for a little over 2 years. I was
Mhm.
wondering, what did you learn in that position, and do you have any advice for people who are probably going to go down that path?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in the assistant positions, you're answering the phones all the time. You are managing the schedule. So you're doing a lot of scheduling, coordinating with people. And you are the central nervous system really for that office or that executive. So what's kind of genius about it is, even though it's not the most exciting work in the day-to-day, you have a window into basically everything coming in and out of that office or that desk. So I would encourage you to use as much of your time as you have available to, if you have a chance to look through that contract that came through that you forwarded along to somebody, or if there's anything that you don't know and you have access to, take a couple minutes and look at it, become somewhat familiar with it. And hopefully the person's desk that you're on, or the office that you're in, you can find some time when it's not crazy busy to ask a few questions about what you kind of took your own initiative on to explore. Because that goes a long way in showing the people that you're working with that, like Wayne talked about, you're curious and you're taking the initiative to learn what you don't know on your own. Because you really have access to almost everything. The other thing you're doing is you're connecting a lot of phone calls. And so I would encourage you to listen, because the most thing I learned the most on was just listening to the producers and the directors and the agents and everybody talking about what they're talking about. Oh, on this call, when you're going through a foreign sales sheet, what are the right questions to ask? How do you figure out if this is accurate or not, or a good thing or a bad thing, et cetera. And it's can be long hours. So while you're young and have the energy for it, I would say embrace the hours and be proactive about learning about all the things that you have access to.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Yep.
When you're going through earlier development or just pre-production with a writer or a director, like what does that look like? And what's the difference between obviously a writer earlier on and then what you move into with the director? What's that process?
The closer to production part of it is more about making the script align with the production plan, kind of what I was talking about a little bit earlier. The process really depends on how far along the project is. So if you're doing a book to script adaptation, it really becomes about talking about the pieces you're going to keep and what you can lose. There's a lot of outlining. To me, you can't really do development without an outline. So there's a lot of outlining, there's a lot of back and forth. It really becomes, if it's a writer director, it's a different process than it is with just a writer. And if it's just a writer, it's really about trying, again, it's about clearly communicating and understanding what the producers are expecting or anticipating, and what the writer's take is on it, right? So it's a lot of outlining, and it's a lot of talking. What do you think, Wayne?
I think it's absolutely, it starts with the story, and whether you're a producer or writer or director, the first element, as far as I'm concerned, is there a through line of logic? Do the characters make sense as to who they are, their relationship with one another, and what is evolving as a story? And then it's a process of, once that's defined, refining that so that you can see in your mind that this is a compelling story, whether it be out of empathy or horror or tragedy, whatever the emotion is. You want to make sure that that comes through in a sensible way, so that the audience can enjoy the story.
Anybody else? I'm sorry, Wayne.
All I was going to say is, as Carter said, echoing what Carter said, as you get closer to production, you now have to weigh all of the practical elements, such as, can you get from this house to that barn in a way that is efficient? Can you schedule your actors who might be coming from another country in a way that aligns with the availability of the location? Is there something that you have to change? Like there's a fence, there isn't a fence, et cetera, et cetera. So then you try to apply the real world elements that you're going to incorporate into the story to help fulfill the story.
Cool. Anyone else? From the go ahead.
When resumes are coming across your desk with, I mean, I'm kind of transitioning careers, but like when you're looking at people's resumes, what are the things that you look at and go, okay, for a new person coming into the industry or with less experience, these things stand out to me? And how long do you want that resume to be? As a page, just keep it a page. What's that for both of you guys?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I always think the more concise, the better. But 1 or 2 pages is fine, as long as it's, as long as you're, putting everything on there that, when I look at resumes, I like to look at a sort of diversity of things. I like to look at somebody who has kind of tried a few different things, or has taken the initiative to, do more than just like focus on one thing, because to be a producer, to be a filmmaker, you really have to be agile. You have to be willing to do a bunch of different things in a bunch of different ways. So that's really the sort of the main thing. There aren't any big red flags for me, other than somebody that doesn't seem like they really want to get out of their comfort zone.
Let's talk about the DGA and PGA for a second. Because you're both, Carter, if I remember correctly, you're a member of both?
I am not a member of
Oh.
either, actually. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I am eligible to be in the PGA. And through the production of this movie, I've been thinking like, maybe now's the time, but I'm currently not a member, so I can't really speak to it at all that much detail.
Then it was Wayne. I had a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, Wayne's both. Yeah.
I remembered one of you were both. Wayne, so how do you get into either the DGA or the PGA? What's the path there? What's the pathway?
In the DGA, there are two, broadly, there are two opportunities. The first is to apply to the training program. And if you're accepted into the training program, they have a series of experiences where they encourage those of us who are working members to hire the trainees. And you start out by staying close to the talent, staying close to the just making sure that all of the paperwork is correct. So you're learning as you're earning, so to speak. Entry-level position takes a couple of years. And then once you graduate the training program, then you are eligible to be hired as a second on any project that would have you. The other way is to not apply to the training program, but work on commercials, music videos, and other projects, and amass a portfolio, so to speak, and then apply to the guild with all of call sheets, photographs of you on location, and production reports where your name appears as a production assistant. And if you've had enough days, I think it's 600, then they will consider your nomination for getting into the Directors Guild. Another way of doing it is fairly expensive, and that is to direct your own project. I think you technically need 3 of them. And then for the cost of a used car, they would collect from you. Then you could get into the Directors Guild as a director. In terms of the PGA, if you're a unit production manager, typically, or a production coordinator, you can get in a lesser position. And if I believe it, Carter, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you have to have produced, is it 3 features?
It's a good question. I think you have to have credits on at least 3 as a co-producer, executive producer, producer, associate producer.
Right.
Do those credits have to match?
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I keep my camera off because it's easier to hear you guys. It bubbles.
Sure.
But don't the credits have to match, or the projects have to be similar? So that if it's 3 features as whatever level, and then, but if it's a feature, a reality show, and something else, you need 3 of a kind?
I'm not sure.
I haven't heard that because my trajectory was fairly linear. But I can certainly look into that and email you back.
Well, that's very gracious.
Thanks. Or we can look it up too, but I just, that's what I'd heard, so I wanted to bring it up. Thanks, Wayne.
Thanks. Are there any other questions from you students?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, Pablo.
In terms of making a portfolio, how would you put all your details in, including the blog? Because I know there's a blog section where you can write all your film, like what you learned and experience. How would you create it?
Film portfolio. That's
Pablo, are you talking about film school applications?
I'm talking if you were just to make a film portfolio in general, like all your experience and stuff you've done in it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the things that I think of when I'm looking at either whether it's directors or students, a lot of times they'll have like a website. So you can feature some of the work you've actually done. Otherwise, I think of it more of as a resume. You know, listing out all the different roles that you've had on productions or, you know, documentaries, et cetera, TV, whatever you've worked on. I would think of it more as I would think of it more as a resume. I don't really see portfolios.
Wayne?
I would have to concur. A picture is always incredibly valuable. So if you have the ability to put together a little website, I think that is a contemporary way of being sort of ahead of the curve, and you could use that as your resume. But also, there's nothing wrong with something as simple as a 1 or 2 page resume that might reference links to films or little projects that you've done, or if you can, you know, show images some other way. Obviously, you don't want to spend very much money, but at the same time, if you have a way of showcasing your work, then I think it's definitely of value, even if it's you know, here are my YouTube videos. I think that would be or TikTok videos. People just want to know that. I mean this in a positive way. People want to know how they can take advantage of you, as in your skill sets, your curiosity, and your artistry, and your ability to contribute. As Carter said before, if you're an assistant to an executive and you're listening, and there are documents, your value comes in when you say, did you know that on page 3 that we have to provide transportation on every other Sunday? And so diving into the details are part and parcel of your contributions.
Cool. Anyone else? Stephen, do you have anything? I think we lost Stephen again. All right. As Stephen sits in his car freezing.
There we go.
Oh, here you are.
No, I'm not freezing. I have the heat on. I've been able to
that's
look
good.
at, all the Christmas lights on the house and figure out which needs to be replaced. But thank you guys. This has been great. I apologize for all my technical difficulties. My wife just texted me that the power is back on in the house. So I'm sitting here watching it light up. But I'm really sorry for the technical difficulties, and that was fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Wayne and Carter. Just to let you know, this is brought to you by, and I told Jerem I'd give him the plug right at the end. So this was brought to us by the California Film Commission, as we've stated before, and we thank them for reaching out to us. And gentlemen, I wish you all the luck in the world and happy holidays. And it was fantastic. Hopefully we can get you back again, maybe have a little,
Anytime.
have a follow
And
up.
we're all excited to see KNOX Goes Away.
Absolutely. Yes. Send
Awesome.
us stuff.
Will do.
Send
Thank
us some
you.
call sheets and some others and other cool things. That'd be great.
Thank you for the opportunity as well.
Yeah, good
Thank
luck
you,
on finals,
gentlemen.
guys.
Thank you.
Mhm. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.